Hey guys, Jason with CV Custom. So I've been getting a lot of questions about this bus in the background, and there's actually a lot to say about the bus and some pretty specific reasons why I picked this bus. A friend of mine wanted a bus to turn into an RV. They call them Skoolies. For those of you guys who do follow my channel and you're not into the Skoolie thing, that's what they're called. So basically you take a school bus and you convert it into an RV. Now he asked me to pick the right bus, and I picked this one for some pretty specific reasons, and we're going to go over that. I'm going to show you guys the bus. A lot of it has to do with the drivetrain. There's a lot of options for these buses, and we'll get into that as well. This one is actually really cool. It's a Bluebird. Bluebirds are one of the better buses, I think. And yeah, let's get into some of the reasons. We'll do that walk around first. Let's take a look inside at what we're dealing with here. Okay guys, right off the bat, let's walk inside. So there you go, there's the driver's seat. Now this bus, it's going to echo. I may not walk through here and talk to you guys. I'll just show you. I had a high school kid take the seats out already, so this one's ready to go. It did have the heater in the back. You see it on the floor. Emergency exit, all that fun stuff. Let's take a look at the dash, see what we got here, and then we'll get to the good stuff. We'll go check out the engine. Cool thing is, go right up here. That's how you open up your engine compartment. So we'll grab our T, and let's go around to the back. Now I'll get a close-up when we get into the engine, but I wanted to show you guys the T real quick. Look at that access. So let's see if I can just get you guys in here and we'll talk about this and why we picked this engine. So, a couple really cool things about this engine. Number one, it's a Cummins. Now, there's a lot of different options for these buses, like I said before. A lot of people like to go with the Internationals. So the International had the 444, which is basically a Power Stroke. They had the DT466, which is a lot like this engine. However, the DT466 has two different models, the DT466 and the DT466E. Now, had I got this bus with a DT466, I would have been happy as heck. But the DT466E has problems that I'm not happy with, and I wouldn't want to mess with it. Number one, the E stands for electronic injection. They use high pressure oil to fire the diesel fuel along with an electric signal. And what happens, these engines are wet sleeve engines, so the cylinder sleeve has O-rings around it that connect to the block. When those O-rings go out, coolant gets into the engine oil. The engine still runs, but all that water gets into the oil, and then that oil gets pumped through the high pressure oil pump, goes through all the injectors. You can spend a fortune replacing all the injectors and the high pressure oil pump, the O-rings and sleeves to kit your engine. That's actually one of the cool things, is you can kit the engine in the bus and you don't have to pull it out to rebuild. So that's a benefit. But that's why I would stick to the DT466 with no E. That will give you a pump that looks a lot like this. It's an all mechanical pump. It basically has a camshaft that goes through here and ignites each individual cylinder. It uses diesel pressure, and the injectors pop off when they hit pressure. They hit pressure when the cam comes around and tells each cylinder to hit pressure. That's the great thing. Now this is a Cummins 8.3. When it comes to diesels, in the world of diesels, it's really hard to beat a Cummins. Just like the transmission. When you're looking at your buses and your transmission is one of your questions, if it's an Allison, you've got a pretty solid transmission. Now, in another video, maybe we'll go over all the different options for Allisons, because there are a few different options. But for the most part, if you've got an Allison, you've got a solid bus. The big differences are going to be in fuel mileage and overdrive and all these different things that you can get with a different transmission. Now, 8.3 Cummins, but there's more to it. Number one, it's a pusher, and we'll go over why I like the pushers in a second. But this engine has the radiator on the side. Now, some of them have it up front, or which is actually the rear of the bus. And when the radiator's here, you have no access to the engine. It's kind of a pain. You got to go to the sides. This is the ideal setup for me. It actually uses a hydraulic pump to turn the fan. Not a big deal. Having hydraulics on your bus opens up a lot of different options. If you wanted a deck that came down hydraulically, you can actually tie into that pump, add a valve, and use hydraulic pressure to raise and lower your deck. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different options you can do because you have this setup. Let's look at all the access we have here. I can get you guys in here. See, that's the fan down in there with a hydraulic pump turning it. Radiator's super accessible. You can open this door when you want to clean your radiator. All that fun stuff. If you have to change the belt, look at how simple that thing is. So, there's that on the engine. Now let's go over a few more things. Excuse me. Wanted to show you guys one more thing before we start talking about the actual class, where I said this is a pusher versus, you know, a conventional. This is the one downfall. Now, this one does have the storage, which is cool. But if you can find what they call, I think they call it a traveling model or sport model, things like that. It's for athletics. They have storage that goes, you know, a long way on the bus, which is awesome for an RV conversion. This just has these two storages on both sides, and they may go all the way through. Let's take a look. Okay. Hey, it's not locked. All right, it does go all the way through. So that's the storage you're looking at, which any storage is good, but you got to remember on these RV conversions, you're also going to be looking at places to put your waste tanks and things like that. So if you had the storage going the full length for the right bus, that's a good thing. Let's flip around here. Okay, so the reason I like the pushers has a lot to do with the length. Now, he wanted as much room as he could get, so that's 36 foot. You can get longer buses, but there's limits in California at the state parks to how long your vehicle can be to get into those parks. 36 foot is generally the cutoff. I mean, you're going to find a park that says, no, if you're 25, you can't get in. You know, it's just hit or miss. This is on average 36, the big cutoff. It's also the big cutoff for RV parks, you know, some of them. So 36 foot is what we were after for the most room he could get. Now, if you had got a conventional, that's where the engine sticks out in front. You just lost, what, 8 foot? I'm guessing because I don't have a conventional here to measure, but you just lost 8 foot where you could have living space to keep your 36. So that's why I like the conventional. Generally what people do is put the bedroom right over the engine, and you get this nice little loft area right here. I've seen neat things. I mean, if any of you Skoolie people are watching, then you know what I'm talking about. There's some pretty neat things you can do over that engine, and that's why I picked the pusher. The big benefit to this engine is it's a Cummins. Tried and true, we already talked about that, but I can't get over it enough. The 8.3 Cummins is awesome. What I didn't touch on the 444, like I said, it's a Power Stroke. Also a great motor. You cannot rebuild that in frame. That has to go to a machine shop if you need rebuilding and all that fun stuff. So, you know, it is what it is on that, but that's also a tried and true engine. Funny thing is, the injectors for that are almost identical to the ejectors for the DT466E. The difference is they don't have that fail point in the cylinder walls where water can get into the oil. And they don't have the EGRs like the 6.0s. You don't want a 6.0. Again, that's a different engine, but if you do find a bus with a Power Stroke 6.0, it needs a lot of upgrades. Don't get it. I actually have a 6.0 that I did do the upgrades on, and maybe we'll do that on another video. And that's a great engine, but it needs upgrades if you want it to last. Another thing I just thought of, when I drove this thing out to the shop, it hit 70 miles an hour, no problem. Now the speedometer didn't read 70. I thought I was only doing about 65, but my buddy following me said he could barely keep up with me, and he was doing 70. He said the bus was doing 70. Now, I do have the app for my phone. I hadn't turned it on. I didn't do any of that. I was just excited to drive the bus. But, yeah, it hit 70 miles an hour, so that's exciting. As far as this bus goes, we are going to build the Skoolie. It's just not the next project. We've got a couple of projects in that shop that have to get done. So you guys have tons of time to leave comments on what you think about building this bus and what it needs, especially you Skoolie people who know about this. Any recommendations you could give would be great. And you see where the bus is right now. You see what's going on in there. This dude's pretty excited about driving this thing around. So we welcome any input. It's just probably going to be a month or two before we get to it. And if you guys are still here, we've made it to the end of the video, and I totally appreciate you guys stopping by. If you want to watch this build and maybe check out some of the other builds, because that International is it was actually the video I was working on right now, but it's taking a long time. We're putting the axles in the frame that are different axles that actually go to the frame. It's taking a long time for me to get that video together, and everybody's asking about this bus. I don't know what it is. Everybody's excited about school buses, so maybe it's because nobody gets to get on a school bus right now. But yeah, anyways, you want to check out the project, like, subscribe, we'll show you, and especially leave a comment. Tell me what you want to see on this bus. I know we're going to do some kind of deck. We're going to do some really cool stuff, so let me know. Appreciate you guys being here, and I'll see you on the next video.